During the so-called Golden Age of China, being born a poet was almost a refined curse. Imagine living in a time when verses could move imperial hearts but not fill an empty stomach. The palaces gleamed with jade and silk, banquets overflowed with rice wine and pheasant meat, yet in the narrow alleys of Chang'an, a poor poet wrote about the moon while selling his own brush to buy paper. Curious, isn't it? The most sophisticated empire in the world, capable of building walls visible from the heavens, could not value those who built invisible bridges between the soul and infinity. Poetry was the religion of the sensitive, and like every true faith, it brought no profit. To be a poor poet in the Golden Age was to live between the glory of ideals and the misery of reality. A tightrope walker without a net, a forgotten prophet reciting to the autumn wind. The Tang dynasty was the stage of this tragic spectacle. The powerful got drunk on verses, but only when written by the right poets, the sponsored ones, the flatterers, those who could rhyme praises to the emperor with the same precision that scholars calculated eclipses. The others, the ink rebels, were left to die gracefully, hungry, drunk, and disillusioned. Li Bai, the genius who challenged the heavens, was called the fallen immortal, but lived more like an inspired vagabond than a revered sage. Du Fu, the poet of human suffering, composed works that would survive for centuries, yet ironically spent most of his life fleeing famine and war. Perhaps poetry, in that age, was a subtle form of self-destruction, a way of dying slowly, with elegance. The poor poet lived trapped in a cruel paradox. The purer his talent, the less useful he became. Tang society worshipped art, but only when it served the empire's propaganda. A poem was welcome if it celebrated harvests, armies, or the emperor's benevolence. Anything smelling of melancholy, philosophy, or criticism was treated as a disease. The irony, of course, is that the most beautiful poems were born from this fever. The starving artist is always more authentic than the official poet. He does not write for the court, he writes because silence suffocates him. Each line is an elegant scream, an attempt to remain human in a world that rewards obedience and punishes the soul. Living from poetry was like trying to warm yourself with the smoke of a candle. Poets lived in the shadow of bureaucrats, dreaming of government posts that could buy them rice and dignity. The imperial examination, this prison disguised as opportunity, promised glory to the learned, but rarely to the free-spirited. Those who dared to think too deeply failed. Those who flattered enough succeeded. The empire wanted verses, yes, but only those that sustained its illusion of perfection. Poetry that spoke of love, despair, or solitude was deemed dangerous, subversive, almost obscene. Nothing was more threatening to power than a poor man who understood the value of truth. And yet, they wrote. In the cold of the night, with a trembling lantern, they dipped their brushes into thin ink and painted the universe in syllables. They wrote about the sunrise, the weight of autumn, the scent of flowers no one else noticed. It was the noblest form of resistance, turning suffering into beauty. Some died never knowing they would be read for millennia. Others were forgotten even while alive, as if they had never existed. But all left behind something the gold of the Tang dynasty could never buy, eternity in the form of words. The empire fell, the generals rotted, but the verses remained, silent, eternal, vengeful. Poetry in Golden China was the art of dying beautifully. The poor poet was an involuntary martyr of sensitivity, a survivor of his own lucidity. He saw the emptiness behind abundance, the weariness behind celebration, the boredom that haunted even the thrones. And for that, he was condemned. The empire could not bear those who saw too clearly. The poor poet was the cracked mirror of a civilization pretending to be perfect. And perhaps that's why time, the cruel yet fair judge, saved him. While the names of generals were lost in dusty chronicles, the names of poets echoed through centuries of silence. The final irony, starving to death was the price for living forever. If hell had a library, it would surely be filled with Tang poems. Each verse would be an elegant confession of despair, each metaphor a wound covered in jade. And there, among ghosts reciting to the moon, would stand the poor poet, smiling, finally avenged. Because history, that fickle mistress, forgets the powerful, but cherishes the wretched who knew how to suffer with style.